So, hello everyone. I'm quite excited to have this opportunity to contribute to your learning. And I'm Dr. Stella Maris Urim. So, I'm course director for Management of Information Systems and Technology. And most of my teaching actually goes towards managing projects. So, today I'll be looking at managing your dissertation as a project. In order to do that, some of the key things I plan to do will be firstly, to introduce the subject and then give you an overview of what your dissertation is. Again, an overview of what project management is, and then I'll then move to managing your dissertation as a project. I'll conclude, and if you have any questions, you can pass these to me through your lecturer and I'll give you my responses. Okay, so like I said, in order for you to understand how to manage your dissertation as a project, you need to first of all understand what a dissertation is. And then again, understand what project management is about. I'll be focusing on project life cycle just to bring this, to your understanding. And then I'll merge both together that you are applying your project management skills in managing your dissertation. Now, you are rounding up. You've studied for the last couple of years, and now you're getting to the point of engaging with your dissertation. One of the key things I'll point out to you is that a dissertation is a research project which is completed as part of your undergraduate or postgraduate degree. Typically, it enables you to find an answer to a question that you propose yourself. So in your first year, second year, and even in your third year, you've engaged with several modules where module leaders have developed the content, they've set the learning outcomes, they've set the assessment briefs, which could be in terms of examination or coursework, and you've had to complete these. However, for your dissertation, which is going to be the largest piece of academic work you'll do during the period of your study, you will be the one that will tell us exactly what you want to do. So you are the one that will set, the aim of this research. You will set the objectives you wish, to achieve, and then the expected deliverables. And then based on all of these, we will then mark your work at the end of the day based on the parameters that you set. So you cannot afford to play around with it because the credits that this particular module will bear will be the biggest of them all. On my Management of Information Systems and Technology course, every single module is about 15 credits, except one that is 10 credits. And then, of course, they also have their dissertation, which is 50 credits. So if you look at it, that dissertation on my course is the equivalent of 3 different modules plus an extra 5 credits. So what that then means is if a student has a problem with, let's say, 3 other modules and they are seeking to pull their grades up, if they do extremely well in their dissertation, they will then be able to have some marks to spread out to these other modules. So that's why you should take it really seriously and think about how to complete it to the highest standard and highest quality to get the highest grade possible you can. So it's a long piece of academic writing, which is based on original research, and you submit it as part of your degree. Usually, it can be divided into 5 chapters, including the introduction and conclusion. So what it normally would look like is, you have the initial pages that sets the scene for the dissertation, and then you have the key chapters, all right, where you have the introduction, the review of literature, methodology, presentation of the research or results, and then of course discussion where you're looking at the summary, the implications, the conclusions. All right, so these are the key areas we want to focus on managing at the end of the day, because this is where the marks go. Okay, now if you move on to chapter 2, which is review of literature, you will then begin to look at things like introduction, search description, conceptual or theoretical framework for the particular research topic that you're exploring. And then you also start reviewing the sources based on the themes that you have identified. I give you an instance. So if, for example, your topic is the uptake of 3G or 4G, for instance, then when you now start looking at sub themes, there will be themes that will be around that particular concept. So you look for theories in this area of that particular topic, and then you set the themes that will help you understand, let's say, the initial concept, and then the concept with respect to, let's say things like legal and ethical frameworks, etc. So all of these, you will capture them and begin to look for sources or journal articles that will give you ideas on what each of these themes is about. So you start pulling all of that together to arrive at your literature review. And an easier way of going about it is having that matrix, the literature review matrix, where you have the sources and then the key things you're finding out from these particular sources, and then you also have your references somewhere, just so you don't make mistakes with plagiarism, because you can't remember where you got the idea from. Now, in the third chapter, you're looking at the research method or methodology. So you start by looking at the introduction first. And when you look at the introduction, remember the key things you're talking about will be things that have to do with the topic itself. And then why do you want to do it? What is your aim? What is your objective? What is the preliminary overview of this particular area of research? Why will it be significant? What will you be adding to the body of knowledge in some ways? So going further from there, you now start looking at the review. So what have people done in this area in the past? So that makes up your chapter 2. So when you're wrapping up your chapter 2, one of the key findings should be an area of niche, where you can then place in the particular thing you want to carry out your research in, so that you can add a little bit of knowledge to that area, because it's not a PhD. Okay, so that's what the review then is about. And once you then finish the review, telling us what people have done in this area, and based on gaps in knowledge, you then want to plug in your own research into this particular area, which is your topic. You then move on to chapter 3, where you tell us how will you then do it. So that's the methodology. So in this chapter 3, the key things you want to then look at is, where does knowledge reside? Where do you believe knowledge resides? And that is your philosophy. Okay, and then once you understand what your philosophy is, if you cut across, the sphere, let's use Saunders et al. Research onion, for instance, and you're moving from the philosophy through to data collection, etc., there should be consistency. So if you believe, for instance, that knowledge resides in both qualitative and quantitative data, then you should be moving towards the mixed methods. All right, so it all depends on what you feel for that particular topic of research you want to explore, where you feel knowledge resides. That will determine whether you are going qualitative, quantitative, or mixed method route or approach. So based on this, you will be thinking about, the design for the research, the research questions and hypotheses, setting the sample, and then collecting data, analyzing, and then concluding if it's for mixed. But if it's for quantitative, for instance, then you'll be thinking about introducing it, and then you have your research design, the research questions and hypotheses, the sample you want to collect your data from, and then the instrumentation, like your survey or whatever else you want to use for data collection. How do you want to analyze it? Are you collecting with the BOSS online survey? Are you using something, let's say, like SPSS to analyze the data? And then, of course, you conclude. So that's what this chapter normally is about. So once you've told us how you will do this research, you then go ahead to collect the data. And once you collect the data, you analyze it, you start presenting the results or findings. Okay, so that's what chapter 4 is then about. So once you present the results or findings, remember, you then move to the last chapter, which now is going to go back to what initially you said you wanted to do in the introduction, what you found that people have done in the past in a literature review, and then use that to compare what you have now found today. So you start comparing literature review against, your findings, and that will then help you come up with some summaries, some implications, and then some actions, recommendations for future practices, depending on what your area of research is about. So that ends your dissertation in a nutshell. So now, once you have that, the big question then is, what is project management? Again, I'll quickly run through what this is, and then I'll then look at how you can then use your project management skills to manage your dissertation as a project. Okay, so project management, looking at it generally, you want to start by asking yourself, what is a project? A project is said to be, temporary effort to create value through unique processes that have been put in place, or services and products. So at the end of the day, you are trying to create value. You are trying to create new processes. You are trying to create new services or products based on what your users have expressed interest in. So some projects are engineered to quickly resolve a problem. For instance, as students, when you try to come for open day and we have issues with lots of students coming in at the same time, so we don't really have enough time to have one-to-one with the student and the parent, that's a prospective student, desiring then to create a platform that helps students who are, applicants who are interested in turning up for the open day to complete and then tell us how many, people to expect. Is it one applicant and, their parents? So we're expecting 3, or an applicant, a sibling and the parents, or we're expecting 4, as the case may be. So to set that up, setting up that platform, which then enabled us to streamline and understand how many staff we will then need to turn up for the open day, etc. That was a project, and it quickly resolved that problem for us. So others, require extended timelines to produce outcomes, which will not need major improvement outside of the maintenance. So example is this public highway diagram that you see here. Of course, this took years to achieve, and it's not something you have to keep maintaining every day, or you have to set out a time for maintaining aspects of it that could have issues, and then regular maintenance, say quarterly, but it's not like every day, unlike the student open day one I just explained or used as an example. So projects, again, coming back, they are unique endeavors. So they are things you do presumably once to achieve a particular specific product or service or process, to put that in place in order to respond to user needs. Now, when you move on from what a project is, you then begin to think about what are some examples around us. I use the student open day platform or portal as an example. Again, construction of a building, that's something you can relate to. Okay, like the EC building, constructing it, or the BSB, constructing it, that's a project. Or developing of a product or service, that again is a project. Implementation of a new business process, or even smaller things like organizing a meeting. If it's a meeting that will happen just once and it won't happen again, like a Viva, a PhD Viva, that's a project. So when you begin to plan for it and ensure it works according to plan, then you're actually planning for a project. So any endeavor, where effort is being made to produce a tangible result, or a result that is not tangible, with respect to things like services, they are referred to as projects. So according to the Project Management Institute, they say that project management is the application of your knowledge, your skills, tools and techniques to meet project requirements. So now we understand what projects are, and we also understand that the management of projects is defined as applying your knowledge, your skills, your tools and techniques in order to meet the project requirement. Thank you.